Everybody, welcome back to Dot Life, Dorchester's only hyperlocal podcast with news, commentary, and analysis. I'm here in the Dorchester Reporter studios with our good friend Bill Forry. Hey, Bill.
Thanks for having me back in my own office. I appreciate it.
Thank you for letting us crash once again.
Most welcome.
And we've got a new face on the pod today. This is longtime journalist, the illustrious Chris Lovett. Hey, Chris.
Yes, good evening. Good to see you all.
Great to have you.
Chris is a legend in Boston. We're lucky to have him as a contributor, as a correspondent with the Reporter. And this feels like a bit of a reunion for me and maybe for Chris, because for 20 years or so, I'd be on Chris's show as the Dorchester correspondent for Neighborhood Network News, which Chris anchored. Most Bostonians been around a while will remember Neighborhood Network News is that it was must-watch TV for folks involved in Boston civic life, in the arts, and of course in politics, which we're going to talk a little bit about on this show.
Yeah, we sure are.
So
yeah.
It's a treat to have you here tonight, Chris.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Great to be here.
Before we get into politics, we do have to talk about football.
Of course, that's why I wore this shirt.
I don't think anybody cares about the Patriots today because the Bills beat the Chiefs last weekend.
But that was last weekend. I mean, are people still like obsessing about that?
Yeah. I think so.
All right.
Who do you guys have this weekend?
I don't know. Do you know? Can you look it up real quick?
I know who we have.
Okay, let me take
I'll
a
talk
quick
about
look.
the Bills while you do your research. We have the Dolphins, who are in a very bad place. So.
Yeah, the Dolphins have been rough.
Yeah.
We have the Buccaneers, I'm told, by Google.
That could be tricky for you.
It could be.
They're pretty good.
Yeah. Well, Drake May's, they've won 7 games in a row now, right?
Drake May had a really bad game against Atlanta.
He had 2 interceptions,
Yeah.
but, they bounced back.
He's
they
a
look
kid.
strong.
He'll figure it out.
And Atlanta's not a great team, I'll give you that, but, we got the momentum. Chris, do you have any thoughts on the Patriots against the Buccaneers by any chance?
I'm not going to take a chance on that one. Okay.
We're probably going to stay in our lane tonight.
Okay, we'll talk politics.
Caldwell. And by the way, I just want to say before we dive into that, great job on your Dorchester UK segment. It was really fun to watch.
Thank you. It's really fun to film.
To walk, to walk along with you and the town crier through the market square of the old Dorchester. And if people haven't checked it out yet, really go watch that segment. It's great. And this week's Reporter, we also have a companion piece, which we have on page 1, talking about checking out the other Dorchester. So it's your narrative version of the trip.
Thank you. Thank you very much for putting that in the paper, and thanks again to the Dorchester UK crew for that awesome experience.
We have to return the favor someday.
We sure
and have
do.
them over
Yeah,
here,
absolutely. Sure. So it's the end of election season. There was a national blue wave. There was a local what?
Yeah, it was a woo wave, I guess. I mean, Boston really wasn't really at the center of this conversation.
Yeah.
Since September. It might have been different if Josh Kraft remained in the race, and he may have been interpreted as part of that sort of moderate to centrist wing trying to push back against the ultra progressive, whether it's Mamdani or Wu.
Yeah.
I think those parallels don't kind of break down in certain places, for me at least, but that wasn't going to be the case without an opponent for this mayor.
Yeah.
The opponent for this mayor, and as Chris I think thinks has written about as well, was Trump. And so in that sense, there was a national element because of the menace that the Trump regime presents to Boston, specifically Boston, but of course other cities. And that really manifested itself in the preliminary, and it lingered through into the final, I think.
Well, I was very surprised to hear, because I thought the same way you did. Like, it's pretty much decided. The mayoral race is pretty much done in the preliminary, so we probably won't have great turnout, but it was actually higher than the preliminary. Were you surprised by that, Chris?
I wasn't surprised by it, and I would say probably the single most surprising figure for me was what happened in the at-large city council race, because everybody was expecting this would be between the 4th place finisher in the preliminary, Henry Santana, who's a strong ally of Michelle Wu, and Frank Baker, who was at least somewhat familiar because he used to be a district councilor from Dorchester until a couple of years ago. And one of the things I came up with in looking at the numbers was that Baker got more votes in the final, as would happen to almost anybody, but his vote went up by 8%, whereas Santana's vote went up by more than 40%.
Whoa, 40%?
That's shocking.
That's a big leapfrog right there. So I think that neither of these two candidates, which you call popular, headline-grabbing, charismatic figures. I mean, there's some kind of machinery going on, I would imagine. But I think another thing that goes on with this race is I compared this to the last time that there was a first-term mayor running for a second term, and there was no finalist on the ballot running against the mayor.
Yeah.
And that was Tom Menino, 1997. He got something like, Menino got 71.2% of the vote, running against nobody in particular, and there were 28.9% blanks. Now, Wu ran against nobody in particular, and she got 81.9%, and I think her blanks, and her blanks were 18.1. So why were there more blanks against Menino? He was a popular guy. Everybody in Boston supposedly met him at least once. Yeah, 97 rather.
Do you think that is the Trump factor, like an anti-Trump vote?
That's my first guess. It's not about likability of whoever's mayor at the moment. I think it's really got to be maybe a lot of people coming off of the No Kings rally and all the other things going on.
Yeah.
Campaign literature that all these candidates bringing up Trump. Even Josh Kraft brought up Trump in the preliminary. So I think that was much. I think a lot of people might have got out there and saying, we're going to show that guy that we're sticking together. We're going to be Boston strong, and we're not going to let him walk over us.
Well, and it's particularly evident to everyone right now what job he's doing because the government is shut down. We're losing SNAP benefits to some extent. We're losing aviation workers. So it's a visible problem.
Right. No, there's definitely angst, in the city.
Yeah.
And the menace that's out there, whether it's an ICE raid in Alston that's been in the news the last couple of days, you mentioned the SNAP benefits and the government shutdown and people worried about their, day-to-day, week-to-week
costs. Yep.
Absolutely. What was very interesting to me, and it gets back to this race, so to speak, between Santana and Baker for the fourth and final spot. We should mention, ticket-topping Ruth C. Louis-Jouen, who once again was dominant as the biggest vote getter in the citywide contest, followed by Julia Mejia, who did very well. She finished only a couple of thousand votes behind Ruth C. Louis-Jouen. And Erin Murphy, a strong performance again citywide from Erin Murphy. Santana was in fourth place. But as Chris alluded to, he finished 15,000 votes ahead of Baker. That's a big leap from September because Baker was only 4,000 votes behind Santana in September. So what really happened here, from what I can gather and what I've seen, the mayor really turned on the gas for Santana.
Yeah.
I remember speaking to the mayor right after the first round, and it was clear that she was going to be she could shift a lot of her attention. She no longer had to worry about her flank as much politically, and could worry about her allies. And Ruth C. Louis-Jouen and Henry Santana are clearly her two favorite choices. Both of them obviously allied with her on the council, and but Santana was weak, or was considered weak, going into this final. He certainly was on the bubble, as we say, and. I was surprised at just how much ground he gained. To hear that he got 40% more votes than last time is shocking, actually.
The Trump bump benefited Santana, really.
Yeah, the woo wave, whatever we're going to call it. I think, in that context, it cements this cycle as really a dominant win for this mayor.
Yeah. In
addition to her own victory, which is sort of getting overlooked. She gets, you're right that she got, there were some blanks, but she and some write-in votes against her. But she crushed her opponent by 49 points in September. And by the way, not just Josh Kraft, but there were two other gentlemen running against her. So it was Michelle Wu against three people, all of whom were not a factor in November. And then in addition to that, all of her allies won in a way that was notable.
Yeah. Yeah, really, really 80% and getting more people to turn out than expected is notable.
Yeah.
Before we get into some more Michelle Wu content, I want you guys to speculate about her future. Are you willing to do that?
I think her future is she's going to be a very strong mayor here over the next few years, and I think it's a good thing for us as Bostonians that we have a leader like her at this moment who has a mandate for sure, and frankly, whether I'm one of these people who likes balance on the council. You like to have people who can check the Wu administration, and that's good for the constituents too. But in this moment, I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon, and I think that's good for Boston. There's other people who may be. Ayanna Pressley is very, heavily rumored at the moment to be considering a run against Ed Markey, or for Markey's U.S. Senate seat. And
so is Seth Moulton.
Seth Moulton's already in, so Ayanna Pressley is very much in the mix as a potential candidate. And if she runs, there's going to be a whole different conversation about her congressional seat.
Yeah.
And Ruth C. Louis-Jouen, Julia Mejia, Liz Miranda, people like that are going to be in the mix. So it could be a very interesting sequence for Boston city politics if those things play out. But I think Michelle Wu, at least for the moment, is very much needed as a strong mayor here in the city. What do you think about that, Chris?
I really don't know what to make of it for the future because, I sometimes think, well, would she run for governor? And, I think people in Boston, we know her. Some people like her more than others. Some people might even dislike her. But, the numbers tell her story about what people in Boston feel. Outside of Boston, you're dealing maybe with a lot of preconceptions and stereotyping, which I find hard to understand. But they probably find us hard to understand, too. But mayor's becoming governor from Boston. Kevin White tried that. It didn't work out for him. And I think the last time it worked out for somebody here, it might have been, Morris Tobin or somebody like that. And I think even in his time, there was this differential between the urban voters in Boston and people in the rest of the state.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I think she's, on balance, probably a lot more moderate than her naysayers make her out to be. But it's also hard to overcome those kind of early impressions.
Yeah. She's very young. It's hard to see her not doing something else in the future, but
she certainly can and might. I think in the near term, though, given the scope of the menace, as I keep saying, or the pressures coming out of Washington, it'd be hard to see her taking a leave from city leadership in that moment. And I think it's important that we have continuity in city government right now.
Well, let's go back to the city council itself, because basically 4 people who were already incumbent finished at the top in the prelim, finished at the top in the general. What does that say? Is that good? Is it bad?
Well, I think it says that the electorate is by and large satisfied with the leadership they had. They had a very clear choice between Santana and Baker, and they decided to stick with the mayor's ally as opposed to Frank Baker is a known quantity, but in fairness to Baker too, let's remember he wasn't on the ballot citywide ever before. He was in the ballot here in Dorchester in District 3.
Super well known here.
Very well known, and if he hadn't left a seat, he probably wouldn't have lost. He probably could have kept that seat forever, frankly.
Yeah.
But citywide's a different animal, and Chris and I were talking about this before the show. The way the city has changed in terms of the voter pool and where people are voting, how they're voting. Chris, you had some interesting information about Florian Hall as opposed to Rosendale.
Yeah, and this is almost uncanny. I looked at the vote from one of the 2 precincts that votes at Florian Hall in Dorchester, not too far from the Ponset Circle. And it's almost exactly the same number of people as in 1997. And what I did was I took that number and divided it by the total number of votes cast in the city, and I got something like 1%. And I took this year's number for 2025, did the same thing, and it was 0.6% of the city. So what happens is that other parts of the city are turning out more voters, and a lot of those are parts like like Ward 19, which is sort of like the ultra progressive section of the city of Boston, the most, Pondside, Jamaica Plain, and part of Rosendale, which is really Wu's territory. And they have a lot more people coming out to vote than they did in '97. So I guess the critical mass of the electorate has shifted not only geographically, but almost in that right to left spectrum in Boston. And that gets into why, what chance does a Boston mayor have of being something else statewide? Because to the extent that this kind of political sorting, doesn't match up with the rest of the state, it's a problem. If it does match, of course, it's an advantage. But I don't think it's an advantage totally.
I wonder if there's other demographics at play there, like home ownership or things that aren't politically motivated, just demographically.
I don't think there's any exact numbers. I mean, one thing I can say, I've seen numbers over the years that Boston's middle income bracket, whether you think of it as middle class or working class moving up, that is a lot smaller than it was 50 years ago. And you don't have as many people with kids. The school-age population of Boston is way down for whatever the reason, the cost of housing, the quality of schools, whatever you blame. But that changes the electorate as well.
The other thing that changes is the slate of candidates to pick from.
Right.
And in '97, the top four finishers were, I think we went over this before, Dapper O'Neill, Peggy Davis Mullen, might have been
Mickey Roach and Steve Murphy.
Four Irish, Irish American politicians, one woman there. I think the fifth place finisher there was Frank Jones, who was an African American candidate and finished out of the money. That's 1997. Look at who we have as a slate of 2025. The point to that is voters in parts of the city who had really nobody that they could relate to necessarily, or fewer. They have candidates that they can get excited about, and when they do, they turn out to vote. And it's not just in national presidential elections, like for Barack Obama, who blew the doors off all the turnout locally, but candidates like Michelle Wu, like Ayanna Pressley, Andrea Cabral, and others over the years who could reliably see a big bump in those numbers in parts of the city that in '97 were kind of low.
And do you think that the flip is true, that the Neponset, Florian Hall area is more white conservative, older, so they're not seeing candidates they can get excited about?
I think that, they're coming out to vote for the candidates that they like. And I think that area, even as early as 1980, I think that might have been a Reagan Democrat part of Dorchester. So they haven't really changed much. But it's not just the population of Boston has changed. You have electorates that I think are shaped by a succession of elections. So you go back to when Deval Patrick ran in 2006. 2 years later, Obama's on the ballot. And I remember being in Grove Hall on Election Day. Everybody was honking horns. The man standing with a big Obama sign in the middle of Grove Hall on Blue Hill Avenue. I mean, people were excited. The neighborhood was electric with politics. And then later on, you get, Linda Dorsina Forry. And then up to 2018, you've got Ayanna Pressley running for Congress, beating Mike Capuano. So this just builds and builds, and Michelle Wu announces her candidacy in 2020 in what was still, I think, Dudley Square.
Right.
Let's cover the last election result for this area, which was the District 11. Is that
Well,
it?
District 7, which includes parts of Dorchester and Centered in Roxbury, and it was a head-to-head contest between Minyard Culpeper and Saeed Ahmed, and Culpeper won by about 500 votes or so. So it wasn't a blowout victory, but it was a clear victory for Culpeper. He benefited towards the end from really a relentless drumbeat of endorsements from, Ayanna Pressley was one. Most of the candidates who didn't win in District 7, not all, but several of them, Sam Hurtado being one, came out and said, we want Culpeper. So he won clearly. He won in places that he didn't win in September, and he is now the counselor-elect as of Tuesday evening. So he's Reverend Culpeper is no stranger to civic life. He's a clergyman, obviously based out of Roxbury. Has been involved in activism in the city since the 1970s at least. And so he's a seasoned person, but he is new to City Hall, and it'll be interesting to see how he transitions into leadership for D7.
It's nice to see that area having representation again after Fernandez Anderson was
She's been
removed.
out of office now
Yeah.
for 3 months, I think. So
Yeah.
it's important the at-large folks can pick up the slack in the meantime. But yes,
Yeah.
D7 deserves new leadership.
Yeah. So, Chris, you mentioned schools as maybe being one of the reasons that people are moving out of Dorchester with kids. Talk about the schools. There was an event that Michelle Wu headlined. What was this, a month or so ago? Or no, I'm sorry, a week or so ago?
Right, yeah. It was the first time ever that we had a State of the Schools address by a mayor. Every year, mayors deliver a State of the City address, which is an omnibus accounting of how things stand and where they might be further down the road. I'm not sure exactly what prompted this as far as timing. People might read something political into it. I knew that the standardized test results from schools around the state, the MCAS test scores, had just been released for 2025. So there was some talk about that. But in Boston, there wasn't any salient impression of things getting a lot better or a lot worse. So I was a little mystified about what exactly prompted this.
The week before an election, too. It's October 28th, right, 7 days before November 4th. And in the Josiah Quincy Upper School, which, Chris, I know you attended, it's a brand new facility in Chinatown and kind of, symbolic of the investment that not only Mayor Wu, but under the Walsh administration, investment in schools as well. But, clearly she's staking out the schools as the key issue in her second term. Two things that are interesting about that. One is, all that we've been talking about lately is sort of Boston having to play defense against a federal administration, that's coming at us on many different fronts. So picking the schools is kind of an interesting choice. And the other thing that's notable about it is, BPS in general and the schools, at large, have always been kind of a dicey proposition for mayors. It's and you wrote in your piece this week, Chris, about how Tom Menino was in 1993, I believe, or 94, came to the Jeremiah Burke School in Dorchester to deliver his State of the City speech. And it really was, deliberate. He wanted to make the Boston Public Schools kind of, and he said famously, like, judge me by how well I do over the next 4 years on this. But that's kind of the last time maybe a mayor said, judge me this way, the way that Michelle Wu sort of did by framing this speech the way she did last week, Chris.
Yeah, and I think it is a change from one of her first forays into educational policy. I think it was going back to when she was still a counselor, maybe already campaigning for mayor. She came out with some sort of a green plan for the schools, and it seemed to be kind of heavy on facilities. And so I might have flipped through it quickly, so I don't remember a whole lot. But suffice to say, I think her focus in her address was different because a lot of what she talked about was small things that are important for moving ahead and community partnerships. The Josiah Quincy Upper School, it comes out of a decades-long history of community engagement in Chinatown. They have one of the great education stories about community leadership, especially how the mothers of Chinatown had organized to defend the access to quality education for their kids, because the federal court and local politicians, they were indifferent, and even some of Chinatown's established leadership, that more male-dominated maybe, they were not very receptive, and then you had these parents and people like Suzanne Lee, who also became a school official. She was a principal at the Quincy School for a while, and they started really, we're going to help design education for our kids. And it wasn't exclusively for Chinatown. There were other ethnicities and backgrounds involved. And I think in a certain sense, the mayor might have taken some inspiration from that as a model. Okay. Not in a parochial way, but in a sense that here's this partnering. You've got the grassroots element, you've got the bureaucrats, and you've got the philanthropic sector and all these people. If you just find ways of engaging more of those assets, you can help a lot of schools.
So there wasn't any major bombshell announcement. It was just the location, the intent was what you think was the point.
Yes, the point was if assets are provided, people can make something of that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think she wanted people to believe that things could be better, and she's going to say, no, I'm not going to take everybody down to Boston Latin and show what all these alumni are able to chip into an ad for their
Right.
kids, which nobody else can do.
Right.
She's going to show a regular neighborhood school that partly through community engagement has become a pretty good option. I'm not saying it's either the best. It's certainly not the worst school for its 6 to 12 grade level. And and I walked into the building. For me, it was like it was a morale lift for me coming into the building. I was a public school kid playing in a music group when I was young. So
Yeah.
they're playing for mayor. I played for mayor in 1968.
Yeah.
and they sounded better than I did.
Yeah. And we could use a morale lift these
Yeah.
days. I think that's part of the decision here is like her taking ownership of the narrative and not letting it always be about, oh, we're getting menaced by
Yeah.
Washington. There's important things that we have to get done here that are, above and beyond.
We can't wait. Yeah.
Right. And she says that, and you quoted her, Chris, saying, our families can't wait around for our schools to catch up. Good for her, I say, for, choosing to do that. It may have been a different decision had she had a contested election a week away, highlighting the schools and highlighting some weaknesses. But without having that opponent, she's made she leaned into that and said, schools are going to be something that's a priority in my next term.
There was a hall full of, I wouldn't say entirely, but a lot of the people in the audience were school-age children. So they were the face of the school system. They were the face of the city's future. And, I've been in, I went to public schools for 6 years. I was a sub-teacher. And even as a parent, I've walked into some classrooms, the kids were zombies, nobody was learning. And I walked into this hall and I felt like, God, these kids are cool. I think they're with it, they want to learn about things and do something in the future.
Yeah.
That might have been the best thing in her speech, just having all those kids there and you just soak that in as atmosphere.
Who looked like they actually wanted to be there.
Yes, they did not seem to be forced to be. I mean, they thought it was cool to be with all these kids their age, and acting like they're important.
Nice.
Well, I hope that she can be successful at school issues and focus in the next term. We'll have to talk to her about that.
Let's hope so. We'd like to have her on the show.
Absolutely.
We know we've put the invitation out, so
Yeah.
someday we'll do it.
Anytime. Woo Wave can come to Dorchester
Let's do
Reporter.
it. Yes.
Let's shift to Dorchester. So we've got a little news from Upham's Corner. Unfortunately, not great news.
Yeah, another pharmacy going dark.
And a busy one.
Yeah, well, it's been busy. It's at a busy intersection at Columbia Road and Dudley, and this is the CVS. So we've talked before here on the pod about Walgreens, 3 Walgreens in the last couple of years closing, and now this is a CVS that's kind of the anchor there in that business district. There's also Brothers Supermarket next door, which is a very important retail anchor as well. But losing a national chain like CVS from there is a blow to Upham's Corner, no question about it. We don't have a lot of information yet on what might come next. It's going to close on December 18th. We learned today that employees were told they can, they'll be taken care of. They'll go to other CVS stores in the region. And customers can go to the Grove Hall store. Of course, we're fortunate to have Upham's Community Health Center right nearby that does have a pharmacy. So, but it's not great losing that option. The Strand Pharmacy is no longer there in Upham's Corner. So, it's just another blow to the local retail. The Walgreens that closed on Gallivan was a Spirit Halloween store, which I love. Actually, I was glad to go in there a couple of times, but that's not going to be the solution there. There's a vacancy in Codman Square, high-profile one, with the Walgreens closing. And so now this is something that Upham's is going to have to figure out. And they have other vacancies, too, at the moment, so something to be watchful for.
Yeah, and a lot of people obviously can go to Brothers for basics, but a lot of people use pharmacies for groceries and supplies. So it's not just the drugs, although that is a problem.
Yeah. So that's that one thing. And also in Upham's, we have a story this week about a convenience store that wants that a liquor license so they can have a package store as part. And Seth Daniel wrote about that as well. Some people pushing back against the idea of another liquor store in the neighborhood, bringing up concerns about vagrancy and alcohol abuse in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that's another one to watch for.
There is something to the get rid of the health care, get alcohol in. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the time is a little unfortunate. I personally think the market should decide, and if it's an allowed use, got to go through the permitting. But restricting retailers from seeking a license, I'm not really on board with that.
Yeah.
But the neighborhood is coming out and speaking out strongly against it in Upham's at the moment.
Speaking of neighborhood feedback to local businesses. No more Whitey. Right.
Whitey and Stevie Flemmy are off the wall at Savin Bar and Kitchen. And this comes after a month of sort of a media firestorm, I have to say.
International media firestorm.
That, Seth Daniel, once again, causing trouble. And the reporter, Seth Daniel broke the story, obviously, having covered a civic meeting in Savin Hill where this topic was raised, and they discussed creating a petition to get Ken Osherow and his business partner Driscoll DeCanto to take down these images. And we're talking about portraits, like large poster-sized portraits of Whitey Bulger, Steve Flemmy, and company. Mugshots.
Yeah.
Obviously, the previous owner of that establishment was murdered, most likely by one of those two men.
Yeah.
And
as well as other folks in Savin Hill area.
Yeah, Dorchester at large. And everybody associates Whitey with Southie, of course. But he was a regional player in a lot of bad things, and Dorchester was no exception. We've documented how there were bodies buried in Dorchester from his murderous reign. So Ken Osherow told not only the civic group, but has told other media now that he wanted these down. Gordon Ramsay's team, helped facilitate taking them down and replacing them with new images. The decor hasn't changed dramatically. It still looks cool in there. Now it just doesn't have murdering thugs looming over you while you're having your antipasta. So, Chris, you were covering Dorchester back in the 1970s when some of these events went down. Did you ever think that this would be a conversation we'd be having?
No. I think one of the things that bothered me about this the most is that when Whitey Bulger was in his heyday, he was knocking off some people who were almost as bad as he was, conceivably. But there are also some people who were collateral victims. And one of them was a man from Dorchester who happened to be giving a targeted person a ride home. His kid just received communion at St. Mark's the day before. They were going to go fishing the next day. And this guy gets killed because Whitey wanted to shoot the guy who was sitting next to him.
Yeah.
And that, if somebody runs a business and they're capitalizing on Whitey's notoriety, and here are these families, these survivors, they're trying to get money from the government that was, using Whitey as an informant and protecting him. Those families, unless you read differently, Bill, I don't think they got anything.
No.
So and here are people capitalizing on Whitey's notoriety.
Yeah.
So it's a Dorchester issue in that way too.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, maybe if it was 100 years ago, you could kind of put that away. But to have people still alive who are impacted by it and lost family members is a little.
Yeah, I think the location matters too. Literally, the guy who owned the Bulldogs, Eddie Connor, was murdered by them. I mean, it's like that's a little close for comfort. I mean, maybe some other place down the line in another part of the city will make this sort of decision, and it won't be a big deal. But the neighborhood really did react this way. It wasn't like fabricated. It wasn't a media. Ken said something about it being an ambush. It wasn't that. I mean, people genuinely were offended by this, raised their voice. It got amplified, but. People said things on the other side, and everybody had a chance to say why they thought it was good or bad. And by the way, that debate's continued now since this news broke. There's a lot of people unhappy that they came down. So it's not a simple solution, but maybe not the best idea to do it in the first place. I don't know. Maybe don't let Gordon Ramsay pick your decor for a Dorchester spot next time. But
dude, this was covered in The Guardian, in I think an Australian paper. Like, were you surprised at how much length
I was surprised
this
at
had?
how quickly it moved. It just goes to show these days
Yeah.
how like viral things can, really take off. And,
Yeah.
it continues to be fodder today and this week. But I'm not surprised in the sense that, topics like this, criminals, true crime, it is part of popular culture, and
Yeah.
and people really do digest it. So
Right.
from a news value perspective, as soon as we heard about it, it was like, well, this is a page one story.
Yeah.
And clearly editors all over
You
the
were
world
not wrong.
thought the same thing. So
In Boston, at least from my generation, it was a city with few degrees of separation. Almost everybody, if they didn't know Whitey, they knew somebody who knew him. I mean, when I was a kid, I was an altar boy. I used to say mass for the priest who, 40 years later, I see a picture of him hanging out with Whitey.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
so
Yeah.
so it's that kind of a
Pretty
city.
close to home.
Yeah.
it's a big city, small town.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
Boston.
Yep, for sure. I was driving here to do the recording today, and the moon is about this big,
Yeah.
and it is gorgeous, and it's coming up right over the harbor next to Morrissey Boulevard. And there's a warning that
And
there's
we-
going to be king tides and flooding.
Yes, we're all on notice that Lake Morrissey is very much in effect, and it hasn't been that bad so far.
No.
I mean, maybe famous last words here. I'll be canoeing home after the show, but Morrissey has been, the MassDOT has put out the word that they may have to close some lanes in the mornings when the tide comes in strong.
Is that not normal? I thought everywhere had closed.
Well, it's normal in places where you decide to build a road through the actual bay. And so, people got to remember this is a man-made decision from 80 years ago to bisect Dorchester Bay with a roadway and not a bridge. So we get what we asked for, and we're still trying to figure out how to fix it. And we have a story this week about the Morrissey Commission gave its final report to the legislature last week. That means that the legislature now has the, for them, the probably unfortunate burden of trying to figure out, well, how do we actually implement this?
This very expensive project.
Yeah, I
with
mean,
no federal
could
money.
could be $1 billion. It's close to that if they do everything. They are continuing to plan. There's a meeting coming up in December that we just learned about to discuss the Beads Bridge, which is the drawbridge in the middle that will have to be replaced as well. And none of this is cheap, and none of it is at a good time because I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but the feds aren't really too keen on giving us money to do anything at the moment. And, Cape Cod Canal bridges, screw you. We're taking their money. Moakley Park, anything resilient that has even the hint of, this might have something to do with climate change and let's screw the libs. They want that money back.
Well, maybe Mom Donnie, it's going to be like the Eye of Sauron. Like he's drawn it over there to New York so we can kind of get some stuff done here while he's distracted.
I don't think he's going to be getting much either. I think for us, it's a tough moment to ask the state to come up with, whatever it's going to be when we have to also worry about, are we going to have to pay for all the SNAP benefits that we, the feds used to pay for? What's going to
Healthcare
happen?
problems, yeah.
So I don't want to, put the damper on the Morrissey project. We, more than anybody, want to see it happen, based on where our location is. But it's going to be tricky.
Yeah.
And so I think the planning is going to continue to go on. And the city and the state are going to have to figure out, is this going to have to get segmented out over a period of time until, the feds come around again? One thing is clear, the tides are going to keep coming. This roadway is going to keep getting swamped. And the resiliency issues, whether you believe in climate change fully or not, I mean, they don't lie. That moon goes high, and the roadway floods.
Yep. Has it always been like that, Chris?
No, this is different from what I remember many years before. So there's definitely something going on with the sea levels and the climate. And I could add to what Bill mentioned because I think Fort Point was supposed to get some money, and now FEMA's saying, "Oh no, your plan doesn't work. We're not going to fund it."
Yeah.
So it looks as if whether it's the spoils system or retribution, whatever you want to call it, it looks bleak until there's some big changes in Washington.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have all the updates on donnews.com, which, by the way, has a gorgeous facelift.
Thank you.
Tell us about that.
We have a new website for the first time in like 15 years. So we're a little behind the curve. This is a long time coming, and we've worked with a team of people over the last 6 months to do this. And there was a consultant that we worked with, which Washtone Media, which did a great job on the back end. But Adam Gaffin, who you may know from Universal Hub, has been our key person on the web for a long time. He's been doing miracles and helping make this happen, and we're really grateful to him. But we did launch it on Sunday. I think it looks a lot better.
Sure
We'd
does.
love to hear from the readership about it and what they'd like to see. But you know what? I love that we can play Seth Daniels' terrific photos, Chris Lovett's terrific photos, nice and big, nice and colorful. You know, it doesn't feel like I'm looking at a 1998 version of the .news site, and it looks up to date. So we're happy, but like I said, would love to hear from listeners, readers, viewers about what they think.
It's very slick, and as someone who has done multiple website redos for multiple companies, it is not an ezy process. So
No, I'm glad it's over, and I'm
happy
glad
for
we
you.
flipped the switch. So now we're on to other things, and you know, one thing I do like is that we can embed the excellent videos that you're doing, including Dorchester UK, right on our site, and share it and try to get more people to know about, you know, subscribe, like, you know, hit the like button, as they say on YouTube. If you can do it and pass the word and help spread the word, the audience here is growing for .life. Congratulations. Definitely. But hopefully this will help get some new eyeballs too.
We appreciate it. What's coming up next week?
Well, we will be putting some more effort into council and talking to the councilors who won, some of whom we didn't get to. Tuesday night was the election. Wednesday morning at 9, we got to go to press, so it was a tight window.
Yeah.
We're covering a community meeting that's happening right as we speak with Commissioner Cox and police command staff from C11 talking about their strategies and engaging the neighborhood on crime prevention.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's great that they're doing that, and we have a reporter there right now, Cassidy McNeely, covering that. So we'll be talking about public safety, and we'll also be doing some fun stuff as we get closer and closer to Thanksgiving. I can't believe it.
I know.
But yeah, that's what we got coming.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Chris. It was great to have you on.
Okay, nice to meet you, Erin. Thank you very much.
Bill, it's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Maybe I'll come back next week. I don't know, or
Not
somebody
if you-
from the Reporter.
Not if you're going to wear Patriots clothes.
I'm definitely wearing something that's going to bother you.
.life is sponsored in part by the Dorchester Reporter, Dorchester's own community newspaper and online home for all things Dorchester at .news.com. The Reporter, owned and operated by the Forry family, has been laser focused on Dorchester and the surrounding neighborhoods of Boston since 1983. That longevity and experience shows in its award-winning coverage every week. The Reporter is our go-to source for authentic stories about the people, places, and events that matter most to our daily lives. We are proud to partner with The Reporter and .news. And you can support the important journalism provided by The Reporter. Just go to .news.com to subscribe today. It's the best deal in town and helps keep our local community journalism alive and well. Welcome back to .life. We are continuing with our neighborhoods series, and we are here today with members of the board from the Melville Park Association. I'm joined by Doreen Treacy. Hi, Doreen.
Hi.
And Bill MacDonald.
Hi.
Hi, thanks both for coming.
Sure.
Melville Park is one of my favorites. It's absolutely
Ours too.
beautiful.
Ours too. Yes.
So for folks who don't know where Melville Park is, what are the boundaries?
So we are south of Park, north of Center, east of Washington, and west
Okay.
of .Ave.
That's
Okay.
pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very small.
Yeah.
Small neighborhood.
Yeah. And you both live there.
Yes.
And what do you do? Can you introduce yourselves?
Sure. So I'm Doreen Treacy. I live on Wellesley Park, one of the parks, streets with the parks in Melville Park. And I work for the City of Boston Office of Workforce Development.
And Bill?
Bill MacDonald. I live on Tremlett Street, also one with parks, and I'm a real estate broker.
What do you mean when you say one with parks?
So with the passive parks, with the like tree-lined median divided
Oh,
streets.
nice. Very, very cool. Are there streets in Melville Park that don't have parks?
Yes.
Most of them. There are 3 that do.
Okay.
So there's Centerville, Wellesley, and Tremlett.
Okay. So it's a
Hey.
pretty small, contained neighborhood. There's a lot of divided roads, what are called parks. What else makes Melville Park distinctive?
You know, one of the things, I've lived there for 32 years and have seen so much happening in the neighborhood. And I think from my perspective, the thing that makes it so special are the people and the way that people come together as a community, and people know each other. And we have, as Bill knows because he's a dog walker, there are lots of dogs in our neighborhood which bring people together, and we think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You're a dog walker, or you have a dog?
No, I have a dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of dog do you have?
I've got a 60-pound pit bull at home.
Nice.
Yeah, we got her from Animal Rescue League 5 years ago, so she was a COVID dog.
What's her name?
Beatrice.
That's a great name.
Birdie for short.
No, I mean, obviously people make a neighborhood, but I think one of the things that I think of when I think of Melville Park is gorgeous houses, beautiful, distinctive architecture.
Yeah, absolutely. The homes tend to be, the lots are a pretty generous size. The homes tend to be on the larger side.
Yeah.
Beautiful old Victorian homes. But, I think the size does kind of lend itself, because we are a smaller neighborhood, does lend itself to, everybody kind of knows everybody, which is, a big plus.
Say, architecturally, there's a lot of Queen Anne Victorians. My street, Wellesley Park, was developed in 1898, and it was formerly the Vinson Farm. And just like developments today, when the builders came in, Craddock and Allen came in to build that section of Melville Park, they were looking to build aspirational houses, because the houses on Wellesley Park, what makes them distinctive is that there's 26 built around a green space with the original gas lights. And the houses on Melville Ave were grand. The aldermen lived there, doctors lived there. And so when they built streets like Wellesley Park, it was trying to make people who were more middle class feel like they could be part of the Melville Ave crowd.
Okay.
And one of the really interesting things about the architecture on Wellesley Park is that just like now, when a new development goes in and homeowners or home buyers can say, oh, I would like to have this kind of bathroom or, this kind of kitchen, and I'll pay for this upgrade. The houses on Wellesley Park, some of them are cookie cutter. You can look across the street and find your twin house. But when you get in the house, there may be differences in how much stained glass there is, or the baluster decorations.
Okay.
So
Personal touches.
Personal touches. You can really see how, when it was developed, individuals were able to put their stamp on the houses that they were going to buy.
Was it a suburban neighborhood at the time?
It was called the streetcar suburb, Dorchester was, because it was, there was a streetcar that came down Dorchester Avenue, I believe. There was the train car lot in Fields Corner, where the Target is now.
Right, okay.
I believe that's where it was. So yes, it was a streetcar suburb, and that was one of the selling points to folks who wanted to live in the neighborhood.
And some of those gas lights are still there, right?
Only on Wellesley Park.
And there's still gas?
They are still gas.
Oh.
I believe we're one of 3 streets in Boston that have retained them.
I think Charlestown might have some.
Oh,
Charlestown definitely
right.
does.
Yeah.
You will find the odd one here and there, though. Like I've seen them in, a kind of like a paper road in the back of like in like Mission Hill and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's really neat. That's very kind of homey.
Yeah, the neighbors had to fight for that in the 70s when they were creating all the electric street lamps, street lights in the neighborhood. Folks fought for that. The Wellesley Park neighbors worked with their aldermen and really fought to keep the gas lights and also to retain the park on Wellesley Park. Another interesting story of developers is that when the original developers were developing the park, they told all of the owners who purchased the outer perimeter houses that the park would retain it as a central beauty spot. And then after everyone had moved in, about 6 months later, they looked out their window and saw people digging foundations in the center of the park. And when
is it wide enough?
It is.
Okay.
It is wide enough. And so the neighbors got together and fought it.
Yeah.
And they purchased the park and gave it to the city in perpetuity.
Okay.
But the
It
neighbors
cannot be developed.
It cannot be developed. But the neighbors had to pay a betterment tax every year to maintain the park. And that happened all the way through. I'm not sure when it stopped. It certainly before my time.
Okay.
But interesting story about how, now we retain this beautiful park.
Right.
That really makes the street
People
special.
rallied together.
Really cool.
Yeah. What other architecture? I know you said there's a lot of Queen Anne's. Is there any other style that kind of defines that neighborhood?
There is stick style on Melville Ave up toward the top near Washington Street.
Okay.
There is Greek Revival. There's a couple of Greek Revival buildings.
Dutch Colonial.
Dutch Colonial, yeah. And there are some really noteworthy houses. Arthur Vinyl was a very famous architect in Boston, and he built his own house on the corner of Alston and Melville.
Okay.
It's a remarkable house. Inside, it's Moorish style, I believe. I could be wrong, and I know that my historian neighbors are probably
banging on
yes. But it's a very unique house. A very unique house. There's none like it in the neighborhood.
When you say Moorish, you mean like like Moorish Spanish influence?
Yes.
Oh, that must be very cool. Yeah. It's not very Boston.
No.
It's not. It's not.
So the other thing you think of when you think of Melville Park is Halloween. We just finished Halloween. It's November 5th today. So talk about the Halloween celebrations.
Yeah, we had a great Halloween. Very busy up on Melville. I think, for myself, our house got maybe fewer trick-or-treaters than we anticipated. So
what is fewer? Like, what is normal?
we give away thousands of pieces of candy.
I do.
Yeah.
I buy 2,100 pieces every year.
Oh my gosh.
And I still have to shut my light out at some point.
Wow.
And I only give one per bag, but I do give candy to the parents who walk around and put their hand out, because I believe anybody who's willing to walk around for a mile or 2 miles is worthy of a Kit Kat.
Right.
And so
Agreed.
sometimes I, give multiples per family, but
Yeah.
2,100 pieces is my standard purchase.
Wow. And so how many-ish did you give out this year, Bill?
I kind of lost track, but I do have an enormous surplus. So I'm almost
so
embarrassed.
disappointed you didn't bring it in.
I did not bring it in.
But so you think it was like hundreds this year instead of thousands?
When you get up on Melville, I walked my son and a neighbor up the street up on Melville. There were still thousands up there,
Okay.
I would imagine.
Mhm.
But I think, trickling out to the side streets, it can get a little chaotic. They do some road closures up on Dorchester Ave and on Washington. But traffic then kind of goes to the side streets. So I think that people really their main focus is up on Melville.
What was the best costume you saw this year?
Oh my gosh, there were so many good costumes. There were this year. There were a preponderance of these blow up, big
Inflatables.
Inflatable. There was a Garfield. There was a chipmunk. There was a duck, like a rubber ducky. But the best hands down costume I saw was there was about a 3-year-old in a wagon in a duck costume with white and blue balloons all blown up all around the outside of the wagon, so it looked like a bathtub with bubbles.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought that was hands down
That's
one of the
great.
best costumes I saw this year.
I missed them. I did see one that was one of those blow-up costumes, but I don't know the character it was, but it was upside down. And whoever was in the blown-up costume had, people to the left and the right. They're like, they can't see anything. So they're just
It was intended to be upside down.
Yeah, intended to be upside down, and they were being kind of shepherded through the neighborhood by family.
Yeah.
Yeah, Halloween is like a national holiday in our neighborhood. It is
People
so
come in
festive.
from all over, right?
They do.
Yeah.
And there's a tradition that started, at least this is the lore, around the late 70s, early 80s, when at that point in time, a lot of Boston Globe staff were moving into the neighborhood. This is after there was the big flight leaving all of Dorchester. And so a lot of these sort of young Globe reporters and their families were moving in. And so
Getting these giant, gorgeous houses for a song.
Probably for $5,000 or something like that. And so it became a place where people felt comfortable trick-or-treating, because Dorchester at that time did not have a lot of enclaves where you may have felt comfortable trick-or-treating. I mean, Ashmont Hill was probably another comparable neighborhood. But that's the history that I know of.
And it's grown since then in notoriety.
It's totally grown. And we do have a lot of young people who are not residents of Melville Park, which I think is adorable and fabulous. And I love the energy that comes. But I know that there are some people in the community that sort of feel like, well, we have all these outsiders coming in and like, yeah, that's what makes it awesome.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where it could be a little bit annoying, but also like it's once a year. It's kind of fun and exciting. Yeah. So we talked about some of the notable architectures and landscapes there, but what about businesses? What are the kind of I know it's not a very business heavy part of Dorchester.
Yeah, we're pretty densely residential, so we could maybe claim some businesses on the outskirts, but for the most part, I'd say our biggest business would be the Epiphany School.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is that high school? What years is that?
No, it starts at fifth
grade.
and runs until I think eighth.
Eighth. All right, so it's middle grades.
It's a middle school.
And a nephew attends school there, and they're just an amazing asset in the community.
Yeah, it's a pretty building.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
I remember when they were coming in, when I first moved into the neighborhood, there was this big storage company that the building ran all along the T walkway. And when the Epiphany School was looking for a place to build, they came to the neighborhood and said, we'd love to knock down this big eyesore of a building and build, we have a vision for this campus that we'd like to build. And there was they're a great partner. John Finlay is a rock star, and he's a great listener, and he really engaged the community in the process of the development of the school and coming in to be a good neighbor and a good partner, which they are and continue to be. That was, I can't even remember how many years ago that was that they've been, but it's probably been close to 20 years that they've been, if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah.
What other, I know you mentioned there's a garden.
Yes. So along the T walkway, when I moved into the neighborhood, the walk from Melville Ave to the Shawmut station was just a trash-laden old tires that people would just, pull up on Melville Ave and throw them. And so when you were walking to the T, you had to walk through this wasteland area. And a group of neighbors got together, and the city was giving out free daffodil bulbs. I don't know if they still do this,
nice.
but and they basically said, you can come and get them for free as long as you put them somewhere in the community. So a group of neighbors, and I believe that Tom Toronto and Diane McCormick were among them, started just digging up, getting rid of the tires, getting rid of all the trash, and planting daffodil bulbs. And so in the spring, when they came up, it was the first inkling of the Shawmut Corridor Gardens. And then in the early 2000s, under then Mayor Menino, the city gave us some money, and we worked with the MBTA, and it was a long community process. It did not happen overnight, but we worked with the MBTA, with the city, and we were able to hire a landscape architect and a hardscape, work with the MBTA and the hardscape, and we were able to transform the whole walkway from a wasteland into this beautiful garden with local indigenous plant species. It was a game changer, and it still continues. The garden continues, and the community does a cleanup the first Saturday of the month, and the community maintains the garden.
Okay.
So that was one of the provisions that when we were able to do it, the MBTA in the city said,
We're not maintaining
we're
it.
not maintaining it.
Yeah.
So this is on the community.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
They do work in partnership with the MBTA staff for like trash removal and stuff like that. But Sarah and Ken Weinstein have been doing this for many years, and
yes.
I help them out for a lot of Saturdays, and
Can you
doing
see that
excellent work.
from the Shawmut station?
Absolutely. You
Okay.
have to walk through it to
Okay.
get to the Shawmut Station. And I should give a plug to Boston Cares, too, because Boston Cares sends volunteers to every monthly cleanup.
Oh,
and
wow.
they have been phenomenal partners
Yeah.
in helping us to maintain the garden.
Yeah, they're great with their volunteers. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
Is the courthouse in your neighborhood? Okay.
It is, yeah.
Okay. It's right on the edge, right? Yeah, am I sensing some?
No, not at all.
Okay. The courthouse is good neighbors.
Good neighbors.
Yeah.
You know, the police and the folks who attend the courthouse, can tend to double park, especially on my street.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
But yeah, I think they've been great neighbors.
Yeah. What other kind of notable folks live in the neighborhood? You mentioned Tom and Diane, who are.
Yes. Diane McCormick and Tom Toronto have been there for a very long time and have been great advocates and activists in the community. I have to mention Jenny Moy, who's been in the neighborhood for probably 28 years, and she was the driving force behind the Shawmut Corridor Gardens.
Okay.
Literally a one-woman with a ragtag group of community members, but really drove that effort, and she's been great. You know, Candace Gartley, who runs ADSL in Fields Corner, she was part of the original organization called SUN, which was Shawmut United Neighbors, which was a sub-part of the Melville Park, what we call Melville Park neighborhood now. And she moved in there in the early 90s or late 80s, I believe.
Okay.
And she's been a really incredible force for good in the neighborhood and in the community.
Go ahead, say that again.
No,
please.
Joanne Thompson, who lives right behind the courthouse. She and her husband, Ben Thompson, have been tremendous assets to the neighborhood for a very long time as well.
Any former residents that people might know?
The new kids on the block
Yeah.
lived at 10 Melville. And when I first moved in, the two brothers, the Knight family and the Knight brothers lived there. And the house is set back, but there's this enormous fence that had to be put up to protect the family from all the fans.
I would imagine, yeah. A lot of screaming preteen girls at that point.
Yes, there were. Yes, there were. They were moving out probably about a year or so, 2 years after I moved in. So,
Did you notice crowds? Were people finding them and stalking them?
there weren't crowds at that point in time, but there certainly were fans that you would see, coming up and peering through the fence and, just making themselves known to their idols.
I mean, maybe they'll see them out there and fall in love with them and decide that they're going to marry them. Yeah. What about other attractions? So you have Shawmut Station. That's your transit stop. Any other transit? Do you have a bus line that goes to Melville?
Like the 23 picks up on Washington and, the buses that run down Dot Ave. But, but primarily the big one's going to be Shawmut.
Yeah. Which is it, as a strictly residential neighborhood or pretty close to it, what are some of the challenges you all are facing?
Traffic, traffic calming.
Yeah. Do you have speed bumps? Did you get some?
We do now.
We do, yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's been a pretty, I think, great development is the addition of speed bumps. They've done, I think, half of Melville Ave.
Okay.
And put them on some of the side streets, which I was a little perplexed by, like I want to say Paisley Park, which is not a heavily trafficked street. But yeah, we could use them definitely down the other end of Melville Ave too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there was, in the mid-'90s, there was a huge community effort to create traffic calming on Melville Ave. There used to not be any stop signs. You could go from Dorchester Ave to Washington Street, and people would drag race down Melville Ave because it's wider too.
Right.
And the community got together. This is another community story. A group of community activists got together in Melville Park Neighbors and worked. We had neighborhood meetings in people's backyards and invited the transportation folks from the city. And we would just, corner them and say, what are you going to do to, bring about traffic calming on Melville Ave? You take your life in your hands. I was afraid to cross with a stroller when my kids were little.
Gosh.
And eventually we got stop signs at Upland in Melville and at Hooper in Melville. So they were still sort of spaced.
Yeah.
So you could still pick up. And then there was a stop sign at Waldeck. So it made it harder to pick up speed because there were 3 points where you had to stop.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop cars from still driving fast after they've gone through the stop signs. So now we just recently, maybe the last 6 months,
about that, yeah.
We got the speed humps, and that has really been fantastic for traffic calming.
Yeah, I would imagine. I know that's one of the pushes that Councilor Fitzgerald has been involved with.
Yeah, my son being, at that toddler pushing into stroller age, I'm, the problem's not solved, but there's still work to do. But
well, and walking the dog too. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah,
man about town.
Yep. How about your involvement with the neighborhood associations? How did you both get involved?
Well, so Doreen, I think you were probably starting this whole group many years ago.
Well, I have to say that there have been waves, and so I was part of the waves. So there had been a group of neighbors who were very well organized. I'm thinking of Brooke and Judith Baker, who live on Melville Ave and have been there since the 70s, and they've been great, solid rocks in the community. But there were people who had started an association, loose association, probably in the late 70s, early 80s. And then as things ebb and flow, as they do, people move, leadership moves, it was sort of dormant. And so when I moved into the neighborhood in 1993, there wasn't a formal association. And so we just there was a little bit of a vacuum when we started, leafleting, doing a newsletter, hand delivering it to 700 houses. And then Yvonne, who is not Yvonne Ruggles, who is part of our executive team, she and some other folks in the neighborhood, I'm thinking Peter Sasso and Alan McGoldrick, sort of reinvigorated the formal association.
Okay.
And so I have been part of the second wave, as it were, of the neighborhood association. And it's 100% volunteer driven, like all neighborhood associations, and so you're always looking for new leadership. And, we're excited to have Bill on board. And in the neighborhood, he's a great neighbor and a great leader.
So how did you get roped in?
No, good question. So moving into the neighborhood in 2020, around, heightened of COVID, still peak COVID pretty much, and attending a few of these meetings online. And I think similar to a lot of volunteer-led organizations, the minute someone piques an interest, everyone's like, here, have my place.
Yes. Have we got a role for you?
Exactly, yeah.
Nice. And so what are you mostly concerned with as an association? I know your meetings are only virtual now, right?
We've moved to 4 times a year. So we're doing September, January, April, and June meetings. Okay. Before we were doing, I want to say we were doing 10 a year. We brought that down to 8, then to 6, then to 4.
Okay.
And we're all online now, but we're toying with the possibility of maybe going back in person.
Where would you go? In a house? You'd have to go in a house, right?
Epiphany.
Epiphany School.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
right,
they've been fantastic partners and, given us use of their library or, cafeteria, anything that we need. They're
That's
there
really
for
nice.
us. But, yeah.
And you run a lot of events. So obviously Halloween is one of the notable events in the neighborhood, but you also do house tours.
Yeah, we did house tours. So interesting history of the house tours in Melville Park. In the late 70s, again, there was this big influx of a lot of artists and Boston Globe reporters and staff. And that group of people started a house tour in the late 1970s, early 1980s. And so there was this foundation of a house tour, and then it was dormant for probably 15, 20 years.
Okay.
And then around 1997, there was a situation where in Codman Square, they ran youth programming in the summer to keep kids safe and off the streets. And the funding for that went away. And so a group of folks in the neighborhood said, how do we help? And we've got this incredible asset, our houses, and how do we turn this asset into a fundraiser to raise funds to run youth programs in the summer in Codman Square? And that was the origin of the house tour. And Bill Walczak, who was at the Codman Square Health Center, Gail Lattimore, who was at the Codman Square NDC, incredible leaders in our community, said, we'll get behind you. It's a community-led effort, but we'll get behind you. And I remember bribing people to get involved by cooking dinners at my house and saying, if you come to a meeting, I'll feed you.
Yeah.
And, the community really rallied, and people volunteered their houses with some trepidation initially. There was fear of
course.
What if people rob from my house?
Right. Or they're casing it while they're there.
Casing it while they're there.
Yeah, right.
But there were some intrepid souls who said, yes, I will put my house on the house tour. And it was just in Melville Park at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it just grew, and we grew into Ashmont Hill and Ashmont Adams.
Yep.
And we had trolleys that would go around and bring people between the neighborhoods. And it was a great effort that went on for about 5 years. But like any volunteer-led effort, it was a huge amount of work.
Yeah.
As soon as the house tours were over, you would have a month off, and then you'd already start planning for the next year.
Yeah.
You'd start your planning meetings. So people got burned out. And also, we were running out of houses,
Right, you can't do the same house every year.
You can't do the same houses every year.
So was it the same? Was it one day that you would just go from house to house?
Yes.
Okay.
One day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you just paid a ticket fee for the whole event, and
Yep.
then
You went to the Great Hall and you bought your ticket, and that gave you access to the trolley all day long. And you
Okay.
could just go between neighborhoods, get off, get on. There were trolley stops.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but so much fun and so much neighborhood pride.
Yeah.
You could just, people just really got behind it, even if they weren't having their house on the tour. Or, we had a
Right.
lot of talent in the neighborhood. We had a photographer, Joe Levenger, who took a lot of the photography that we used in the books. We had a graphic designer who would make the books every year, and it was all pro bono. So we really leveraged a lot of talent and assets in the community as well as the houses.
Yeah. But those are no longer happening.
They're no longer happening.
Unless an intrepid listener decides to volunteer.
Yes, anybody who's interested, yes.
Yeah. What about Christmas? Halloween's big. Is Christmas big?
Yeah, so we do a Christmas event, right around which...
So it's the Sunday before Christmas.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we assemble and distribute and for sale for, I think, $10 or $15 or something. We charge for a luminaria set, and people light them off in their front yard or maybe like on one of the parks or something like that, the Shawmut Tunnel Cap. They all get lit. We meet there for on the tunnel cap for song. We've got a neighbor who leads us in song. We've got song books that I think, probably have 30, 40 years of dust on them.
Yes,
but
yes.
we're trying to break that dust off. And we had a visitor from Santa Claus one year, which I've taken
Nice.
the role of no spoilers, but it is me on the back of the pickup truck showing up.
Yes.
But yeah, we didn't do it last year because I want to say we were in the single digits
It was
temperature-wise.
frigid.
With
Was it really?
Yeah, so we were in the negative temps for with the wind chill. So we're like, maybe just light them off in your yard. It's fine.
I heard a rumor, speaking of the Shawmut Tunnel, I heard a rumor that was going to be converted into a green space. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, that is it called the Dorchester Greenway?
Yeah.
So the vision for that is to develop the tunnel cap that runs from Ashmont. It's now behind fences.
Yeah.
It runs all along behind Samoset Street, and then it runs, of course, through Shawmut.
Okay.
And
then after Shawmut, it's open air for a bit?
It's, well, behind my house, which I abut the tunnel cap, it is fenced off.
Okay.
And that came about because neighbors in the 1980s, there was a lot of crime and drug activity on the T walkway behind the houses. And so the neighbors, asked the T to fence it off. And so the vision for the Dorchester Greenway is that would be opened up, and it would be a bike path, a walking path, a passive park space.
Yeah.
And there's mixed feelings about it, because it would be amazing on paper, and the renderings are beautiful. But it's also a space that could be, once again, a space that people gather who may not have good motives for being there. And the other thing that I think a lot about is how much effort goes into maintaining the Shawmut Corridor Gardens, and therefore how much work it would take to maintain that stretch of Parkway.
Yeah.
And so there would have to be a provision in any plan for the ongoing maintenance of the park space.
And funding.
And the funding that goes with that, yes.
Yeah, they did a review, I believe, more recently. They had a grant, something to the tune of, I think, $600K, where they were looking at a viability study for the project. It does have a lot of support, and I mean, it'd be great to see what is essentially just a barricaded area for trees to fall, turned into a pedestrian walkway for the residents, not just of Melville Park, but right down into Ashmont.
Right. Yeah, I would love that. Well, you don't have a lot of businesses in your area, so I think you can be very unbiased with this last question. Your favorite restaurant in Dorchester?
Can I get nostalgic?
Sure.
Okay, the Blarney Stone was my second home for 25 years. I used to joke it was my living room because I would be there so many times during the week. I'd have meetings there. At one point, I worked in Fields Corner in Codman Square, so I'd have business lunches there.
Yeah.
And then I'd come back with my kids at night. And so then, of course, after that was the Ashmont Grill, which was
also
one
gone.
of my other awesome favorite places.
Yeah.
So I would say the place that is a go-to place for me for brunch is Sweet Life in Lower Mills.
Okay.
They have the best homemade hash, and it's a favorite in our household. So that's where I go when I'm looking for something to eat.
Yeah. How about you, Bill?
It's kind of a tough call. I do love, it's kind of sweater weather right now. I think also lends itself to hot soup weather.
Yeah.
So a good bowl of pho is pretty great. So pho hua, pho lay, hong quay.
You've got your pick.
Fong Nam. Yeah, take your pick. We're lousy with amazing restaurants.
Yeah.
In Dorchester, but 224 Boston also great. Bowery, Via Canuccia, amazing.
Oh my gosh, Via Canuccia. Yeah, I have to say that's my favorite night spot. It's hard to get a reservation.
It sure is.
But the food there.
You can almost claim them, can't you?
We can kind of claim them.
Yeah.
It's more St. Mark, I think.
I think so.
Or it's not St. Mark anymore. It's
not St. Mark's anymore.
I don't think, isn't it?
I think
Greater
it's still
Ashmont.
It's I mean, Wells right there is on the corner.
Yeah, I think it is still St. Mark's, that section of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually not sure I had heard that before.
We were so fortunate to get Via Canuccia in that spot.
Yeah.
Because we were really lacking a sort of after the grill closed and the Blarney closed, and for me, I
even
love
Zia
to be
Gianna, which is the space it was before.
Yeah. I love the walking aspect because you can have a glass of wine or two, and just
and not
walk
worry
home
about it,
and not worry about it. Not really enjoy yourself and enjoy a great meal. So, yeah.
So I appreciate this conversation. I think anybody who has a free afternoon, especially if the weather's nice, go walk down through the Melville Park neighborhood and check out the homes, the gardens, and the people, because it sounds like a great place.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
Dot Life is supported by The Record Company, Boston's leading provider of accessible music creation spaces. The Record Company is addressing the critical shortage of affordable creative space in our city, serving over 4,000 monthly users across 131 communities. They've preserved 47,000 square feet of professional studio and rehearsal space at rates 60 to 90% below market value, ensuring Boston's musicians have a place to create, regardless of economic means. But they're more than just affordable space. They're building career pathways through partnerships with Bunker Hill Community College, offering professional certification programs that lead to sustainable music careers. This vital work is at risk. As creative spaces continue to disappear across Boston, the Record Company needs community support to maintain these essential resources. Their Amplify Boston campaign directly funds space preservation and career development programs. Visit therecordcompany.org today. That's therecordco.org to donate, become a monthly supporter, or learn about partnership opportunities. Every contribution helps keep Boston's music ecosystem thriving. The Record Company, creating accessible pathways to music creation since 2010. Welcome to this week's Tiny Dot Concert. We are here with Lover of Eve. They are a band that performs here at the Record Company, just on the hall from where we are right now. But they've joined us in studio to talk about what's coming up. They've got a show this Saturday, tomorrow, and we're going to hear a little bit about their music, their inspirations, and who the band is. But let's start with band intros. Chiara.
Hi, I'm Chiara. I am the lead singer of this band.
I am Bruno. I am the drummer.
I'm Kristen. I'm the bassist.
I'm CV, guitar, sometimes backup vocals.
I'm Pete, and I play guitar.
And who is the founding member? Is that you, Pete?
Yeah, I'm our George Washington, and Bruno is the second longest serving.
The John Adams?
Yeah. He's John Adams.
And how did Lover of Eve come to be, and has it always been called that, and where did that name come from, and is there an Adam?
Not that I'm aware for the Adam, but, the band came about because I was in a bunch of bands over the years, and some were really good, but they were mostly like random people from like the internet. And
what? You would like randomly hook up with people on like a band Tinder and get together?
Yeah,
nice.
That's exactly what happened. And, it was going great until I got, music STDs. Basically, the bands kept breaking up, and I got sick of it, like being in like a Craigslist All-Stars lineup or whatever. Then I decided like I'm going to just get together with my friends, and we're probably going to be terrible, but we're going to keep going at it till we get good. And that's how it started. Like, I used to work with Bruno, and we both shared a love for music. It's one of the reasons why we became friends. And, I knew he drummed, and I kind of started harassing him to get him, because drummers are hard to find. And eventually I convinced him, and he had a great time. And, here we are.
Was it just you and him at first? Was it just like a singer and a drummer?
No, it was, the very first time we had a rehearsal, it was the singer of one of my bands that folded, Vincenza. She's an amazing person. And Clint, who was our bassist until we got Kristen over here. We had nothing written, and we just jammed for like 6 hours. And she was an interesting, Vincenza. Like, she would just like come up with lyrics on the fly. And Clint and I hadn't played together in like 5 or 6 years, so we were just like making up riffs. We're like, all right, E minor, and just praying it didn't sound like a dumpster fire.
Bruno, do you have any further memories from that period?
I think no. We just had fun. We had a lot of fun those years. It was really good. Yeah.
And then the rest of you joined eventually.
Well, so Clint was. I played with Clint in punk bands in the early '90s, so I knew he was the best man at my wedding.
So Clint brought you in, and now Clint is gone.
When a different guitar player took off one day and went to Austin or something like that. Dan just sort of
he left,
ran away, and
band, and he's still a good friend of ours. He's in another band called My Passenger Side. We played a show with them a couple weeks ago. He's a hell of a guitar player, but he had to try to go find himself, and he went to Austin for an indefinite amount of time, and we're like, all right, we need another guitarist. And Clint was like, oh, I got this guy, CV. Like, you met him once at like a concert, at least
Residence show.
Yeah. So I'd met you at least once before, and you didn't seem like a serial killer. So
That's always good.
It's a very low bar.
That's about all you can say about
it's 2025. A low bar is the only bar.
And then Kristen and Kiara joined.
So I was first before CV and Kristen.
Okay.
It was me first. CV came in to be.
It was for a show, right? Because we were going to do a show at the Middle East, and you needed someone to. I thought that's where it was. Wasn't there like a
Middle East?
Our first show was at the Middle East, yeah.
Yeah, with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
first one with you. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
thought
yeah.
in general.
Yeah. We had Dan at first, and then Dan left, so then CV came in, and we had it was all of us and Clint, and then Clint left, and we had Kristen could take over for bass, and yeah.
Was that the Halloween?
The Halloween show.
Yeah,
Oh, what great timing.
that was great. Yeah.
She was Jessica Rabbit.
Ace Frehley, who we've lost this year.
Yeah, I was Ace Frehley with it looked like a $2 wig. It was bad.
So what kind of music do you play?
We have it's a conflict of interest in the best way. So my style of singing is more like soulful R&B, and what they play is like harder rock, metal, mixes of punk, all the rock fusions, and then I kind of just
Mellow it out a little.
You blab very well.
Thank you. Yeah, so some kind of soul rock fusion
Okay.
of sorts.
And where did the name Lover of Eve come from?
I just came up with it one night. I may or may not have been a little extra sleepy that night, and I thought it would be a good idea for a name,
Okay.
Maybe there's a background story I'm leaving out. Maybe there isn't. I don't know.
We can move on if you prefer.
Yeah.
Can you talk about Saturday? What's going on Saturday? Tomorrow.
So tomorrow, we're super excited. We're playing a show at Dorchester Brewing Company. It's a wonderful place. They have a lot of really good drinks there. It's a chill vibe. We're playing with two other bands. We're playing with Galaxy Cake, who we've played before with, and Ashy Finn. I like them a lot. They seem very talented, very funny. Like, I'm looking forward to playing with those guys.
What time is the show?
7 p.m. doors, 8 p.m. music.
And are you playing, do you know, in the greenhouse, or are you playing down on the brewery floor?
There's a wedding in the greenhouse, I think, that night.
There's a wedding up there.
Yeah, so we're hoping to get the wedding people to come too.
Yeah,
So-
like the wedding people might come down. I mean,
You
because
might be a wedding band and you don't even know it.
I know indirectly.
I hope that you have like those classic wedding songs rehearsed.
Well, what's interesting, Pete, is that we're actually playing not in the bar itself. If you know Dorchester Brewery, there's like really nice finished sections. There's a barbecue place in there. Yeah. There's a back room where you can do events and things. And we decided we wanted to actually play in the distillery, like where they make the beer in the back. So we're setting up a stage, setting up our own PA back there. So it's going to be having this like kind of DIY punk rock vibe to it, hopefully.
Love that. So tickets are available, or is it come to the door? What's the deal?
It's come to the door and give the secret handshake.
$10.
$10. That's the secret handshake.
Okay.
Venmo or cash.
What are we going to hear from you today?
All right, so today you're going to hear from us Spirals, which is a song I had to fight for because it has seventh chords and people thought it was dorky. No names mentioned. Trashed, which it's a newer one, we like it. Houston, newer one, we love it. And On Demand. We always start the shows with On Demand. I almost think that we're like superstitious at that point. Like, I think Trash would be a great one to start with, but On Demand, it's a great song. People love it. I love it.
That's 4 solid songs. You guys have an album?
We're like working on it.
We're working on it. Yeah, we have some songs on Spotify, Apple Music, but no album yet. It's in the works.
All right. So people can find you on Instagram.
Yeah, Lover of Eve Boston on Instagram, on Facebook, and Lover of Eve on Spotify, Apple Music, any streaming platform, Lover of Eve.
And just real quick, are you all from Dorchester? I know CV, you live like just there.
Yeah, Pete and I we actually live in Dorchester proper.
Okay. How about the three of you?
I live an hour away.
Get out.
I'm the farthest. I know.
I live like 10 minutes away.
Okay. You can stay. Kiara?
Yeah, I'm in the Everett area, not too far.
Okay.
Right by the casino. But won't go gambling.
Nope, no gambling for me.
Awesome. We would love to hear you play.
All right. We'll do our best.
Yep. Hello, everybody. We are Lover of Eve. My name is Kiara. I am the singer. And we got CV on guitar. We got Pete also on guitar. We got the lovely Kristen on bass. And we got Bruno on the drums. Lovely.
Now we're going to do Spiral. Trish.
Welcome, Boston guy.
All right.
Oh, baby. Oh, that's how this one goes. Okay.
come see us at the Dorchester Brewery on November 8th.
At what time?
Early show, doors at 7, first band at 8, done by 10:30. You can get home early. It'll be fun. How's that?
Houston?
Houston.
Thank you for listening to Dot Life, which is available on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Dot Life is produced and edited by me, Erin Caldwell. Technical and editing support is provided by Yasser Mahmood. Additional support is provided by the Dorchester Reporter and the Record Company. Thanks to Doreen, Treacy, Bill MacDonald, Bill Forry, Chris Lovett, and Kiara Oliver, Peter Ahrens, Kristen Butcher, Bruno Rodriguez, and C.V. Bowden from Lover of Eve for joining this week's show. Thank you for listening, and we would love it if you could share, subscribe, rate, and review the pod wherever you listen. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, visit .lifepod.com for more information.